It sounded like this at Olympia Stadium. The Beatles? Well, they were in there somewhere. After the screams, the crying, the show of love and excitement, the audience filed out, and the Keener mics recorded the Beatles press conference.
Anyone like to raise their hand?
How do you like Detroit so far?
Great. We've seen very little. The show we enjoyed.
Thanks.
No, we come here to play, not to see. No. Sorry, we can.
Mr. Taylor.
Okay, we'll use the mic.
What was the last question, which I didn't hear?
What do we think of Detroit?
What do they think of
Great.
Detroit? They
Good.
say it's great. What they've
He
seen
said,
of it
was
so
it a
far.
disappointment not to see it? And we said no, because we've come here to work, not to see it.
We saw a bit of it,
I
though.
don't mean this to be a facetious question, but does that noise out there, do you ever go in with a little bit of cotton packed way deep in your ear so that the din and the noise
No, we're
never.
used to it.
doesn't upset you?
We're immune to it.
Sounds nice.
Hello.
Sounds nice.
Oh, man.
Just checking.
Yeah, guys, which artist or musical group do you think has most influenced your music?
Nicky Cuff.
Nicky Cuff, I'd say. No, American coloured groups, mainly, and early Elvis Presley.
In fact, the Detroit sound.
When Elvis was
In fact, yes.
In fact, yeah. Tamla Motown artists are our favourites. The Miracles,
we like Marv.
the Impressions, Marvin Gaye,
Tam,
Mary
Shirley
Wells.
Wells, the
Major
Exciters.
Lance, to name but 80.
Chuck Jackson. The
What's
Exciters.
this, Bill? What's this one?
The Bit in the Field.
And the bit in the bathroom. Hey, we had a laugh. Didn't we? We had a laugh. Anyway.
Do the Jelly Beans bother the Beatles?
Yes.
Yes.
It's
Yes,
awful.
actually. It's worse when it's not really jelly beans. When it's once there was a about that long silver pin that they used for sticking on kilts in Scotland, and it came flying through about 200 miles an hour. Just missed me. Ow, ow.
Very dodgy.
Is that in affirmation, or do you think it's are they throwing it for you, or
I
against
think so, but it.
They throw jelly beans
And
if
when
they
they
have
run
them,
out
and
of
then
sweets,
when
they
they
throw
run
whatever
out.
they've got on them, which hurts.
ever throw anything back?
No, I think we did once.
Have you written the new screenplay
No.
yet?
I'm not writing it.
Are you still writing every day at all?
No, I'm having hard enough time trying to get to sleep.
Fellas, with the exception of being on stage, after the performance is over, do you socialize with each other or do you go your own separate ways? I always wanted to ask you that one.
But we can't go.
Or is it
our
like
own.
in the movie?
We
It's
all
more like
go
in
the
the
same
movie.
way, don't we?
Especially on tour, yeah. It wasn't a joke.
They're all the drunk.
Of course it was a joke.
John Wade.
Good joke.
Some of the kids, like I noticed in the first show, should be ejected by the police because they do talk.
No.
That's stupid. Isn't
They
it?
should just confiscate the jelly beans at the gate.
Or just eat them.
Just ask them not to throw them. You know, that's throw streamers instead, and we'll have a party.
Or balloons or something light.
What reaction do you guys get individually when you see these kids crying and when they get very this hysteria?
You don't know. If you're on stage, you're really thinking about what you're playing, you know.
And it depends how bright the lights are. You
Sometimes
can only,
you can't see
sometimes
anything.
Yeah.
The overall reaction is just one of being flattered. You know, it's just nice to think that they
Or
like you.
flattened.
I mean, you know, I don't think they're crying because they're unhappy. I
You
hope
guys
not, anyway.
think of yourselves as singers and romantic idols at the same time? Or what do you think?
We're just singers, you know. Or shouters, whatever you like to call it.
What do you think about all the psychologists giving
Rubbish.
all these heavy definitions of what it all means?
They've got nothing else to do, them fellas.
Just one moment, this one is here.
Talents, your percentage, you don't sing, you don't do
I used to paint, but only because I had to.
Acrobatics, all sorts of things.
Stay a house?
Lousy. Pardon?
Oh, I didn't hear what you said. You said you
Well, you missed it.
Oh, he's nasty today.
If you had a son, maybe some of you...
I have. I've got one like
Would you
that.
like him to grow up to be a Beatle?
No, I mean, what's the point? It'll be outdated when he grows up.
No, that's what I feel. How long do you think it'll last?
Haven't a clue. Don't mind, you know.
Probably won't last that long, though, will it?
No.
I mean, he's 38 now.
John, what made you decide to let Peter Gordon have
Why did World Without Love go to Peter and Gordon?
Because when Paul and I were fiddling around with it, and they heard it, they sang it good, so we gave it to them. They're good, aren't they? The new one's out too.
The new one.
Get that.
At your local record stores, I Don't Want to See You Again.
That's right.
I Don't Want to See You Again, Peter and Gordon.
That's not a plug, though.
I'm wondering how are Detroit noise compared with the noises in other cities?
Favourably.
Which one I did was
It wasn't.
We met each other with long hair, didn't we?
Yes.
Well, it wasn't really this long, but it was longer than average, you know. And it wasn't just an idea that we suddenly got saying, you know, haha, that'll be a gimmick. In fact, we didn't even know it was a gimmick till somebody told us it was. You know, somebody kept asking. People from the press said, you know, well, what's with the hair? You know, it's like everybody else's, isn't it? You were a bit stupid.
Who are the chief competitors of the Beatles?
Elvis.
Sophie Tucker.
Does he still sell that many records?
Yeah, he does well, him, you know, he's not messing about.
Next to the Beatles, who is your favorite British?
Animals.
And the Stones.
And the Searchers.
The Animals opened at the Paramount New York. It was half empty.
Well, I
still
mean, nobody
like them.
knows them yet, but, you know, they'll know them. They're good.
Good group.
When the show is over for the day, so you guys head back to your apartments or houses, you listen to record albums?
Sometimes, not very
Music
often.
you listen to, bass?
Rock and roll. Yeah.
Or the ones that we were talking about before, you know, especially the ones made here in Detroit.
But not Basie or Shearer?
No.
Oh, we
I've
do
got a
listen to
Shearing
Shearing.
album, but, you know, you've got to
We're
be
not-
in a
we're not
good
very-
mood to listen to him.
We're not very keen jazz fans. We like a bit of all kinds of music.
How about George Gershwin, Jerome Kern, Cole Porter?
Yeah, okay, you know, but don't go potty over them.
They were great, you know, but we like other
Have you had a
things.
chance to meet Elvis Presley, and if so, what was his reaction to you?
We haven't met him, we'd like to, you know.
How about Mancini? That's the back.
Henry Mancini.
He's great.
In fact, we met him in a nightclub in London, actually, but I think he never noticed.
Can we have the noise down just a little bit at the back?
I'd like to direct a question to Ringo. Is it true that you have stated you would like to be a disc jockey if you were not a Beatle?
No, someone said, what are you going to do when it's all finished? And I said, I don't know, but it'd be good fun being a DJ. And since then, I've become a DJ.
You have?
Only by word of mouth, you know. So any minute now you'll read Ringo leaves to become a DJ, but it's not true.
Ringo, are you engaged? She doesn't.
No, I'm not engaged. You only have to take someone out and I'm married, you're off already, you know. You don't stand a chance.
Don't stand a chance to.
No, there's no...
How about you, John, when it's all over? You got any plans?
Well, you know, no plans, no. Why plan?
Well, you know, the only thing that really sounds like a plan is that John and I will probably carry on songwriting. But other than that, nobody's made any plans.
Question behind me.
Fellas, I know in Europe soccer is the big sport. Do you have any favorite sport here in America, such as baseball or American football?
We're not
We
keen
don't
on
like any sport.
Very unsporting, really. Smoking is a good sport.
What do they think of the Dave Clark Five and the Rolling Stones in one
Rolling
breath?
Stones are good.
Well, we've just remarked on that. We like the Stones. You know, Dave Clark's all right, but I prefer the Stones. Yeah. And pardon?
When will it be out?
Oh no, you know, just when I've finished it.
From what you've heard so far, how does American radio compare with British radio?
You can't compare it really, because in England there's the BBC and then 2 commercial stations which are outside of Britain, outside of the zone. In America, in each city they have about 30, so you can't compare it.
It's much
better over here.
It's more fun over here, though, the radio.
It's more exciting, the radio here.
The Beatles left the confines of Olympia after the second show. WKNR's Larry Kane, who traveled with the Beatles for the entire U.S. tour, recalled something else of the Detroit visit.
You know, escorting the Beatles to and from a performance can be mighty dangerous. Two officers from the Detroit Police Department yesterday found it that way. The motorcycle escort started at the Whittier Hotel and went over to the Olympia Stadium where the concert was held. In the middle, though, downtown Detroit, two of the cycles cracked up. The officers fell 5 feet to the ground. Their motorcycles were damaged slightly. They got up, continued in the procession, a little safer and possibly a little more frightened, but they know now what the Beatles mean. The Detroit police came out 500 strong for the show, the two shows, one in the afternoon and one in the evening. You know, when John, Paul, George, and Ringo get on stage, things seem to be getting wilder all the time. For example, at Detroit's Olympia Stadium, girls put a giant phone number on a poster about 20 feet wide and 20 feet long, and it said, so-and-so and so-and-so love the Beatles, phone this number. I don't know how many young men may have phoned their number last night. And then there was this watch. Now, you know, we talked about things thrown on the stage before, and in Detroit there were pins thrown. One of them barely missed John Lennon, and jelly beans, of course. But one young lady from up in the balcony took a beautiful gold watch and threw it on the floor of the stage. A policeman picked it up, brought it to Lost and Found. I looked at the watch. It was inscribed to a certain name. It was a beautiful watch, a beautiful keepsake, and I was shocked that someone would actually throw it. When I told the Beatles about it later, they were a little disappointed that the person may have lost their watch. But that's the way the extremes go when it comes to John and Paul and George and Ringo.
Well, the Beatles have left Detroit, and we hope they'll be back in the Motor City. Perhaps they can spend more time here next time. Although they themselves are gone, much of them remains. Certainly their music. And Keener has captured much of the Beatles' wit and humor on tape, and answers to some of your questions. WKNR newsman George Hunter and the Fab Four.
Paul, you mentioned, last time you were in here down south, when you and the boys were told that there was a Stamp Out the Beatles Club in Detroit, you made the statement, we'll start a Stamp Out Detroit Club. How do you feel now after the reception you've been given here in the Motor City?
It was only a joke, really, anyway, in the beginning, but, no, it's a great place, this, you know. I don't want to stamp it out. Lovely place.
How'd you like your first show here this afternoon, Paul?
It was very good, you know. We were excited, you know, as excited as the crowd. It's good.
Regarding the futures, when the Beatles as a group becomes a thing of the past, will you and John continue your writing together?
Yeah, I'm sure we will.
I have one other question for you, Paul. We talked about, you said you would continue writing with John in the future?
Yeah, I'm sure we will, because we've always done it as a sort of hobby, and even now it's a hobby, you know.
Well, being a songwriter, you mentioned that your writing in particular was influenced by the Detroit sound. Just what did you mean by that, Paul?
Well, if anything, you know, we've been influenced by the records that we've always bought, and one of the big sources of records for us, as far as we're concerned, our Detroit record.
George, can I get a word in here with you? Do you have any plans for the future?
Well, for the future, I mean, tomorrow's the future, isn't it?
Well,
but we've got plans. We know what we're doing until around next March or April. Around that time, we should be doing a new movie. But after that, we don't know, you know.
By future, I did not mean you as one of the boys or the Beatles as a group. I meant you as an individual when the Beatles as a group becomes a thing of the past.
Well, the thing is, we won't know, we won't plan a future until we realise the Beatles are shortly to become a thing of the past, you see. But the way it looks at the moment, we're all right for a bit, you see.
I would say from the sounds here today that you're all right for a good many years to come, but there is nothing in particular that you would like to do other than be a Beatle.
No, I wouldn't mind producing records or doing, you know, something. I'd have to do something in the business if I didn't perform.
Well, John and Paul are going to continue writing. Ringo says he wouldn't mind being a disc jockey, and you have nothing in particular.
Yeah, I think out of the lot, I'd like to be an independent record producer.
Ringo, I noticed one of the national magazines here in the United States, after your movie, dubbed you as a star.
Yeah, well, it's a load of rubbish, you know, because I'm not an actor. I don't think any of us are really actors. We're just doing our best.
You don't feel then that you have a future in the acting business?
No, not at the moment, you know, maybe.
The fact that they did say that you were able to project a strong personality and you could find a very lucrative future in acting, you disagree with that?
Yeah, I do.
Well, one other question, Ringo. I noticed when you were doing your solo in that first show, you perspired quite heavily. Do you always work that hard, or was it particularly warm here in Olympia?
It wasn't particularly warm. We always perspire a lot anyway, you know. You're sort of throwing ourselves around, and it's, I don't know, we knock ourselves out, you know. We give them all we can, and you knock yourself out.
And you did say that in the event, when the day comes to pass, that the Beatles as a group is no longer in existence, you would like to go into the radio business as a disc jockey, didn't you?
I said that one day. Well, you know, I think it'd be good fun.
I think
just something I fancy, you know. You may change my mind next week.
When you had that slight accident in New York when they grabbed a hold of you and pulled your chain off, you mentioned one word. You said, with a strong tug, I managed to get the chain back.
Tug.
That's a beautiful word. Thank you very, very much.
It's like someone said to us.